Okay, welcome back. It's COMP308 Emerging Technologies, and it's week 6, lesson 6, part 1. And today, for the most part, what I want to do is do a little bit of lab work. So working on your Jquery-Mobile project. I apologize for my voice. I'm a little bit under the weather. But again, this is due kind of towards the end of this month, right, in terms of time frame. But I wanted to review with you some of the requirements, so that way, I know we got it last day, but I think in order for you guys to be successful for the midterm exam, I need you guys to be on the ball on this kind of stuff. This will be the last, like I said. After this break is done, after we're into the second half will be everything with mean stack and all that kind of stuff that we're talking about, Angular, Node.js, MongoDB, all that stuff that we're going to be hitting for second half. So what I want to do is kind of handle what we did last time. I want to talk about assignment number 2 just briefly again, just to remind you what we have to do. So again, we talked about how to kind of put together this mobile specific site. One piece of the puzzle is this responsive design with using something like Foundation, right? So where we reflow our content, right? And again, we can use things like Foundation, Bootstrap, other technologies that we did for first assignment. And then of course, as we use this progressive enhancement idea, where if a client asks you for a specific mobile site, how do we do that? Then we use something like a Jquery-Mobile or a Ratchet. Now, those are both pretty good frameworks. They're fairly lightweight, both of them, and then we can create something that's more mobile specific. So we talked about that last week, and I kind of went over kind of a demo of how we get that done. So on GitHub, just going to go through here. On GitHub, I kind of pulled together this. Let's just go to COMP308. So there's this Jquery-Mobile demo right here, right? So if you haven't done this, or if you didn't follow along very well last week, you can certainly pull this back down. I'm going to continue a little bit of this, and what I'd like you to do today, at least for the most part, is start reflowing your content. Use your content, your existing content, with for assignment number 2. So I'm going to give you some chance to work on assignment number 2 here in class. Take a look at what you're doing, so that way you get started. Because I think one of the things is, not just for you, but for everybody, is how do I start? What do I do? Right, kind of thing. And I think we got to talk about that a little bit. Okay, so let me just fire up Visual Studio 2013. Again, the way I do things, as you've seen so far, is we do a little bit of tutorial, but I want to take a look at your work, because as you go, I'm not a hands-off kind of guy. Even when I was a manager before, I'd always go to my employees to say, show me what you got, right? Because at the end of the day, we don't want to, not that I'm saying I want to micromanage you either, right? But at the end of the day, I want to keep tabs, almost like the finger on the pulse kind of idea, so make sure that everyone's on track to get things done properly, right? Because again, for me, it's all about learnings, right? What can you pull out of here when you leave this course? I want you to be better web developers than you were when you came in, right? So in order for us to do that, we have to kind of keep it together. Okay, so I'm going to pull my stuff out of my local repository. Again, I call mine Jquery-Mobile. I'm just going to launch my Visual Studio 2013 here, and then we'll be back with this project we were working on last time, right? Okay, so I've got all my scripts, everything in one place. I've got my CSS and my content, and I built all this stuff up by using the NuGet package manager to kind of come up to this place, right? Most of the stuff we'll be doing for this project, or this assignment, will be here inside our index.html page, right? So if you notice, I put together these page wrappers. So one of them is this home page, and then we got our projects page, and so on, a services page, and a contacts page. There's going to be some pieces that I will not include in the in the workflow for this project, because when I look at, I'm just going to kind of zoom in here, this would be what it would look like on mobile, let's say, right? And if you notice, I have 4 links here: home, project, services, and contact. I don't have on my home page, I don't have GitHub, because it doesn't make any sense, right? So that's why I didn't include it. What you want to do now is, how do I make some of these bars, like for example, if you notice my footer is way up here, right? I don't want my footer to be way up there. I want it to be kind of at the bottom of my page, right? Well, what you can do is you can make it so that the footer doesn't move, right? How do I change that? Well, I'm going to take a look at Jquery-Mobile really quickly. Again, I always refer you to the docs online for some of these APIs, right? Because again, you have to figure it like this. I can show you some of it, right? I can show you some of it, but the majority of what I think you should look at is the stuff that's here online, because at the end of the day, it gives you the best support and documentation for Jquery-Mobile. So if I look at the API docs or demos, they're the same. But let's go API documentation. And I want to document, I want to look at some examples of 1.4.5, that's where we're at right now. So this is what it would look like. This is what you'll get when you download Jquery-Mobile anyway, right? So again, we went over things like the navbar, the navbar widget, and they give you some really cool examples of 4 and 5 button navbars. I don't think, from a design perspective, if you're going to make something only for portrait, that you want to go larger than 4 or 5 buttons on your navbar at any time. It just becomes too small for the user, right? Like, you ever use an app that you try and press on it a bunch of times to make it go because the buttons are small? Sometimes the designs are like that, where they're really small. You can also do multi-row and stuff like that as well. You can put a navbar in a header, which is what we kind of did, and you can put a navbar in a footer as well, which is very, very possible. A couple of things that I used is, with the navbar, is UI button active, this class that allows us to kind of move back and forth, because we want to make it persistent. So we don't want it when we go back and forth in the navbar. Here, as an example, here's my navbar, and if I go to projects, it flips, and if I go back to home, then it goes back. It highlights where I am again, right? So that's why I use that class UI button active for which button is active, and UI state persist to make sure that when I go back and forth, it remembers which button I had pressed before. And the reason why we have to do that is because we're using Ajax actually to load different pieces of our single page HTML page into itself. That's the whole idea here. The idea between Jquery-Mobile and others, this other single page applications, is that they load different pieces of the page as you scroll, as an example, or as you click on a button. So for us to do that, we use Ajax, right? And Ajax sometimes messes up because it can't remember. So they have this one class that they use, UI state persist, that allows us to do that. We talked about data icons last time and how to put data icons on there, on the navbar. And you can also fiddle with your icon position, put it to the left, put it to the right, whatever you like for your own style. And also, and this is where I recommend you look at this third-party icon set. And you can get it from Glyphish, right? This is kind of free. And if you look at the source, instead of our data icon being a home button or a info button or whatever, you can say custom, and then you can use your CSS to kind of implement. These are examples of how you would use CSS with Glyphish to do your own custom icons. So if you're interested in doing that kind of thing, which I think most of you should be, because let's face it, an info button may not be correct. So like, look, here's my buttons, right? My icons, right? They're not exactly perfect, and they don't mean the same thing. Like, projects shouldn't be this little, it should be projects. It should be something else that I put in here. And if you look at my example website, when I put together a framework here on GitHub, I did that. I kind of got a couple of different kind of icons, right? And if you look at the code, it's available on GitHub as well, right? you can see what I did on the front end to make that happen, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit. I want you to at least get to this point. So again, some custom icon bar that you can make yourself. And the other thing is that right now our styling is very basic. And what happens is one of the requirements in your assignment number 1, I'm just going to go back to your assignment for a second, or assignment number 2, is to theme roll your own, like kind of roll your own. We got to kind of cover that as well, right? If you notice, I say go to theme roller to kind of set up your own theme, because what I want you to do is set up your own colors so it matches up with what you're doing on your regular website, your one that's responsive, right? So theme roller is a part of Jquery-Mobile, and what I'll do is I'll set up another place for that. So if I go to Jquery-Mobile and I go to themes, it's going to take me to theme roller. Here's theme roller. It's just another site on Jquery-Mobile, and what you can do is you can sit there and kind of determine the themes, the color themes and schemes for your buttons and your UI, right? So this is one of your requirements. So I need you to kind of fiddle with this one with me here today. Like example, if I want to change my and there's different themes here. There's theme A and theme B. You can retool these to do however you like. But let's say, for example, I want to use a red. I want to kind of change the color of my theme. Like I click A, and I go to page as an example, and it shows me my text color and my header and footer bar, my text color. I want you to match these colors up. You can do it manually here, right? And you can save your theme. If you want to share your theme, you can download your theme afterwards. And you can incorporate this thing with, it's a CSS, basically it's all CSS. You can incorporate it into your own style, right? Which we'll do today. So here's example button, normal button, hover. So if I change my, let's say I want to change my, I'm looking at theme A right now, and I want to change my buttons. I can just drag the color, right? So let's say all my buttons are red now, right? Because that's the color I want. If you notice, it changes a bunch of different colors in terms of sliders and buttons and so on. This is theme C. If I don't want to have a theme B or a theme C, I can just delete them because I don't care about them at all. I can only have one theme, theme A, in this particular case. Okay, here it is. So let's say, for example, I want my header also to be a type of red, but a different type of red. You can choose from here different colors as well. Like, for example, I said I want my header to be red, right? So my header, my list header, all that kind of stuff, I want it to be red, as well as my buttons. My item, maybe I want that to be a different color, like instead of just red, it'll be some other color. And again, I recommend you stick with the colors that you got from your original themes, whatever it was. And you can actually specify color, a background, and a border color right here. So it's very accurate in terms of how it looks for you. So once, let's say you've got your theme, maybe I'll change my button as well. Maybe I'll make my button not red, but another color. Again, I can just drag and drop my stuff in here. If you look at the color swatches from Adobe Cooler, it's built in, right? So if I want, as an example, different kinds of swatches, I can do that. I can choose color swatches that are built in, like the ones that they've kind of put together. Some color swatches that are up here that are very popular. So let's say here's another one. So I want to take this one and use that one for my buttons for whatever reason. If I like that, I may not like that, right? And you can always go and remove that and put it back to white. As an example, if I don't like it, I can change the color. That might not be so bad. So again, you have kind of a theme or a color theme scheme, if you will, for your theme. Now I want to download it, let's just say. So I click download, and it tells me I can change the theme name to whatever I want. So let's say my site is I can change my theme name to, instead of A, because that doesn't make any sense, right? I can make it so that it's like F or something weird like that, and kind of download my zip. So here it is. And when I open up my Jquery-Mobile theme, if I double click on the example file, it'll show me how I put it together on my CSS. And if you notice, it says f.min.css for my themes. This tells you how to incorporate your theme into your style sheet, as well as how to include in order your Jquery-Mobile. So I can pick F as a theme if I do it this way. And I chose F because I know there's A, B, C, D as themes already. I don't want to overlay those themes, right? So it says, you know, here's I can put my cache settings on and off, but all this is doing is checking to see if it's working, right? Let's go back here for a second, so that way we're clear on what it looks like. So here it is. Here's my my index, and if I look at themes, I have f.css and f.min.css, both those things. If I want to look at the uncompressed version, it looks like this. And of course, I also need my regular CSS, which I already have, right? If I go to images, anything else in here for icons, these are my regular icons, right, that I would normally have, like arrow and stuff. I already have this stuff. So chances are, all I really need, if I've already done this piece, to incorporate this red and kind of weird beige theme, is just take my f.css or f.min.css and incorporate it into my design. Let's try that. So I'm going to go into, I'm going to stop debugging for a second. And if you notice, my CSS is here on the top of my page. And they suggest I put my CSS before jQuery's CSS. I'm going to do that, but first I got to transfer it over to my CSS. I'm going to put it into my own CSS file, not under content, because it's all busy there with the Jquery-Mobile stuff. So let's just do that. So I'm just going to choose, again, f.css, so it's the unminified version. So maybe I want to modify it, and it's not letting me because it's just not letting me. Oh, it's because it's compressed. Sorry, I have to uncompress it. It's under download still, so I have to kind of uncompress the thing. I'm going to unzip it, otherwise it won't let me connect it or copy it, right? And then from here, here's my theme. I'm going to grab F and slide it across to CSS. Here it is. And then from there, it's saying I should put it here. Let's see if I have access to it. Now I'm going to save this thing. And what I should be able to do now is, if I went to my footer, as an example, here's my footer. And if I say something like data-theme, I think it's, sorry, let's go back to the website. Because I want to show you guys the source, right? So it's like, so it looks like this. Data icon is custom, but I want to show you the themes. Hold on a second. This is the wrong one. It's this one. So it says data icon. Data icon is whatever it is, right? And hold on a second here. Here's swatch B, and of course it's not loading up properly because it's not showing us the swatch. Well, basically it's a theme setting. It's one of those data dash items. I want to make sure it's correct. So I don't want to mess you up in terms of, I'll tell you one thing and it's something else altogether. But the great thing is, even if it's not there, you can always go to theming. Here it is. Here's theming. And I can do if I go to classic theme, this is what it would look like for a classic theme, right? And it tells you all the different styles, and this is what the classic theme would look like which is very blue, right? Oh, here it is, UI bar -A. So I want to do the same thing, but I want to go UI -bar -F because I made F. So I'm going to go back to mine, and here I'm just going to go class is equal to UI -bar -F, right? Because I should have that in my theme. If I don't, I just want to check my F wrapper right here. If you notice, here's my unminified version of my CSS, right? I have if I kind of scroll down to see what it looks like, right? I should be able to get all my themes by using the -F if I've done it correctly. So this is just the unminified version. I just wanted to show you where it would be. So actually this is, see, it says -A. This is bad. Because what it should be is it's overriding, even though I've called it -F, everything says -A, right? And that's why -F isn't available. Now, I could have named it F when I made my theme, and that's probably what I did wrong. Because when I went to Theme Roller, I called this Swatch A, right? So I could have made it Swatch F. The right thing to do to make it easy for you, so you have a problem, you don't have a problem, is to change this from Swatch A, and I can add a bunch of them until I make Swatch F so that it doesn't conflict at all. But that's okay, because I just need to know which order to put my stuff in, because remember, from a CSS perspective, this would take over the A theme, right? So let's go and rearrange my CSS. So if I do it here, and I put my minified version of the CSS here, that means jQuery's CSS will take over for mine. I don't want that, so I'm just going to cut this. Actually, if I push Option, no, that's not what I wanted to do. No. All right, well, I'll just cut it out and put it there. There's a way of moving it by yourself. Okay, so if this is the case then, and if I say UI bar A, right? UI bar A, because that's what it is. The theme I've just overwritten is A, even though mine says F, I can call it whatever I want. If I run this thing again, right, for my first page, right, and I refresh, I should have theme A, right? So you see how my theme has changed, right? Because basically my default theme would be A, right, and then all my buttons and everything else are going to be along with my theme. So now it's the red theme, right? Now I don't have to specify A because A is the default. So that's not a bad way of doing it either. And of course I got to put it in the right order. I've got to put mine underneath the Jquery-Mobile CSS, because when I do that, my cascading style sheets work like the last style that I put in is the one that takes effect. It's all in a cascade. That's why it's called cascading style sheets, right? Okay, so I did the theming, so you know how to do that. That's one piece of your puzzle for your assignment number 1. Number 2. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit off today. So that's theming for you. Although you could do it the way I said. You could make it theme F so it doesn't conflict. If you want to keep theme A on like the classic theme for whatever reason, you rename it to F. Like everything inside your CSS would be F as opposed to A, and then you can keep A if you wanted to mix and match the blue theme for whatever reason. But I recommend making your own. It's part of your assignment anyway, and it looks better if it matches up with what you had. Okay, so let's look at toolbars for a second. If I want to make my toolbar fixed, that's another thing I like to do. Here's my fixed toolbar. I got to use this position fixed idea here, right? So in order for me to do that, I got to use this data dash, which means I want to make my toolbar fixed for my, and usually I can do that for my header or my footer. So I'm going to go back down to my CSS, or sorry, to my HTML here. And if you notice on the bottom where I have my footer, right, in the home page, when I launch this thing, I'm just going to kind of relaunch it. My footer is way up here, right? I don't want that way up here. I want it down at the bottom of my page. So when I kind of scrunch in my page again, right, I want this down here, right? That's where it should be, not up here, right? Even if there's nothing in my content, I don't want it to depend on my content to push it down, because then my bar will pop up and down depending on where my content is. I don't want that. I want it to be fixed, right? So that's a better look, right, than what I had before. So again, let me just erase this because I don't need this right now. I can go data dash, and when I look through the data dash, if you look at it, right, there's all kinds of stuff that's built in, because as we've it picks up most of the Jquery-Mobile styles that it's looking at here, right? So this is what we're going to have to do. Just going to go back to this page, and I need to put this data dash position in here. So let's see if it picks that up. So if I go data dash position, and it may not sometimes, is equal to fixed. Okay, so I'm going to do that only for the home page and nothing else. Let's take a look at how that looks, right? I'm going to refresh my page, and there it is. See how it's right down here? It kind of pushes my bar down here. Now I got to do that. This is why it's good to set up your page the way you want it to from the get-go. So here's my bar is way down at the bottom now, right? But if I go to projects, bam, it kind of pops up there because it doesn't follow every single piece of the page, right? So I got to do that for all the pages. Now my theme carries forward because it's part of my CSS, right? My theme carries forward. But if I want to make my foot bar, as an example, fixed, my footer bar, for every page, I got to do the same data dash position is equal to fixed for all my pages, which I, by the way, think is a good idea, right? Whether you're doing it for, because it also doesn't mess with your, orientation changes as well. So here's, I'm going to put data dash fixed. I'm going to just do that to all of them. Data dash position is equal to fixed. Only for the footers, right? Let's just say. And again, you can put that for the headers as well. But I caution you that sometimes if you do for the header and you have scrolling text, that your bar will override, like it'll kind of like flow over your text content. Which is, if that's what you want, that's good. But some people have an issue with that. Okay. Let's just refresh the page. So here I'm refresh the page now. And if I go to projects, it's down here. If I go to services, it's down there. And contact, it's down there as well. Okay, so data dash position equals fixed is the way to go. Okay, a couple more things and then I'll stop. So I want to make sure you guys get all this. There's a lot of really cool little widgets and stuff for sure. So we talked icons, we talked pages. What about things like panels? For example, you can make a panel and it looks like an overlay, if you will. So if I click on overlay, right, here's what the panel will look like. It'll pop in. Take a look. So this is kind of neat for something like an iPad app. So if you're going to do your iPad app or something like that, if I kind of click on a button, that's where you can put all of your navigation on a panel that's outside of the screen, right? You can also do a reveal where it kind of pushes to the side. That's kind of another common effect, or a push. Both do different things. That's the left panel, and it does the same thing for the right panel. So you can do a right overlay if you want to produce that kind of effect, or a right reveal, right? Or a push, where it pushes things over. A reveal, the difference between a reveal and a push is it's almost like you're on top of it, where a push pushes you to the side. Different kind of effect, right? And you can include that, and that's a really good effect for things like where you need the space. If you want to put a long, complicated list of navigation, or if you're using an iPad to maximize the space that you have on the screen, right? Something that's hidden on the side. So panel widgets, really, really cool. Here's my pop-up widget. Here's a basic pop-up. Comes up like almost like an alert box, right? And it kind of overlays like this. They also have now things like tooltips, right? So if I hover over the eye, as an example, it gives me kind of a little tooltip that says learn more, right? Same thing with a photo light box. If I click on the photo, it kind of comes up. If you want to do that kind of thing for your gallery of projects, that might be a good thing to do, right? And the same thing goes with a menu, right? So you put the menu up, little context-sensitive menu that you go through. That also works nicely. Nested menus, this is kind of neat as well. So choose the kind of creature you want, pets, an ocean creature, or whatever. And a form, if you want to sign a form, please sign in, right? All these kind of things work really nicely. The one that you're going to need for your exam is this one. It's called dialogue, right? So if I go here to dialogue, it'll come up with a little dialogue page, and you can choose, there's going to be some things you need to calculate for your exam on the dialogue. So if you're going to study anything for your exam, then dialogue is what you want to study. And if you want to look at the source, this is how you put together a little dialogue. So it gives you examples of what it looks like, right? It's like a page. So in other words, what you're doing in the HTML is you're creating another section, almost like another little page, if you will, in your HTML, right? And you're going to access it just like you would normally access a page like it's a single page app, right? So it'll be an anchor tag that you're going to access, and it's going to be this data rel is equal to pop-up, and data position to is equal to window. So it'll kind of pop on top of the window. This is a good example of some text that what it would look like if you want to do a pop-up like this. And there's different ways to close the pop-up and so on, and different transitions you can use, like for example a slide fade, or a one of those kind of slide in, or a flow, a turn, so it kind of turns up. Take a look at that again. That's kind of neat, right? Flip, a pop, and a slide down. So it slides down. So like lots of little transitions you can use for a pop-up. They've really improved that over the time. And of course you can use different themes with it too. Like here's theme A, and so on. You can choose somewhere on the pink area below if you want to put an arrow together, so where it kind of it shows you information about the area. So really good examples of pop-ups, which is, again, one of them is going to be required for your exam, right? So keep that in mind when it comes to this kind of stuff. There really is some really cool third-party API demos. For example, you can combine Jquery-Mobile with Backbone, right? There's lots of things you can do with Jquery-Mobile. It's just one overlay for a specific, UI for mobile, right? So imagine a lot of people can do this kind of thing. So you don't have the capability of programming in Swift for, let's say, for iOS, or if you don't want to make a native iOS app and you need to be, platform agnostic. So it's going to work on iOS and Android the same way. Jquery-Mobile, right, is a quick fix for you. May not provide you all the functionality that you want to get with a regular app, like for example geolocation and all that stuff, but this, you can actually include a lot of this kind of functionality right here with Jquery-Mobile. One of the things I wanted to show you. So we talked about different things. How about grids? You can do, for example, you can make custom responsive grids, or let's say I want to make a grid for Jquery-Mobile. I can have, just like we did for Foundation, you can set it up so that there's different block grids you can use to kind of give it the exact amount of space inside your content. So you can say, well, I want a 5-column grid, so I want to have block A, block B, and you can give as much, just similar to what we did with Foundation. You can allocate how much room you have for your grid so it's responsive. You keep that responsive element to it, okay, which is kind of a really cool thing. And again, I would invite you to look at this yourself as well, because there's going to be some really cool things you can do here that I can't cover all of it, but I wanted to show you at least part of it. For your forms, because maybe you want to make a form similar to what you did with for your main site, for your Contact Me page, there's some text input widget that what it looks like is like this. So here's my text input. It glows just like this. I can do a search bar as well, a text area. Example, I can put a number in here, so I can kind of dial up a number, right? I can also kind of default to a date. And you can see the source. If you want to look at how it's done, basically say for label, and then the for is date 1 as an example, and the type is date, and then it'll ask you, it'll kind of show you how these things work. So I can kind of dial up a date. I can put in month, right, and then day, and then year, 2015, and it'll keep that information for you, right? So it's very cool, and how it comes back. And they also have other things in here, like for example, checkbox, radio box widgets. I have to show you this one because this is also part of your exam. So if you're going to study anything for your exam, radio buttons is what I'm going to ask you to do in your exam. Some radio button examples. The thing to look at is how this is done, right? So for example, you're going to have multiple radio buttons to put in. And if I say I want to kind of click on one, and then I can see what that looks like, I can put together a vertical group. So only one of them can be chosen. See here I can choose 1 or 2. Here I can choose 1, 2, or 3. There's also a vertical group or horizontal group you can use, 1, 2, or 3. I can make them mini-sized. I can add an icon. I can add a theme, right? This kind of thing. I can make them disabled. I can, there's different things you can do here, right? So again, what you need to know for your exam are the two pieces that I need you to know from a control perspective is the dialogue that we're going to talk about when you come back from in week 7, and radio buttons is the other thing you need to know, and how to do some calculations with JavaScript, right? How do I calculate things with JavaScript? I got to actually create a variable, and how do I use JavaScript or jQuery to know, as an example, when something is clicked? I got to be able to do that, and I got to do that within an hour, right? So how do I do that with jQuery and JavaScript, right? Like for example, this, if I go view source on this, I have a label with it's a radio button. It says my type is radio, my name is radio-choice 0, right, as an example, and then radio-choice 0B, that's my ID. The name is radio-choice 0, right? So that's my input. And I also have, for the group itself, if I go back down, if I look at this one, this vertical group, and I look at the source, I see that I have it's a vertical group, and what I have here is a couple of radio buttons. But if you notice, the selection for A, B, and C, here's the selection, the actual label for the for piece, right? This label has different values, 2A, 2B, 2C. And also my radio choice for my ID, right, is 2A, 2B, 2C. So how do I check as an example if an item has been selected? Well, I can check if the checked value is equal to true, if it's checked or not, right? And if it's checked, I can add up, I can tally, because this is what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to tally your radio buttons together. How many of these are chosen? How do you do that, right? So I want you to study these things, so when we get together, I can't show you everything, but we're going to use some, as we come closer to the exam, like maybe tomorrow again, I'll kind of go over how to do that with CSS and JavaScript. Okay, so I've talked enough. I've wanted to give you a little bit of insight on how to put stuff together for your actual content. And again, I've given you a couple more things if you want for customization from a style sheet perspective, as well as some theming and so on. Any questions around this stuff so far? Jquery-Mobile. So for the second half of the class, I want to kind of go around and work with you guys. I want you to set up your Jquery-Mobile theme, right, for your site. And I want to take a look at your current portfolio site and kind of help you out and say, here's what I recommend for your portfolio. Because you got your current portfolio sites. We'll take a look at the colors, and then we'll start with Theme Roller. So while I'm going around, what I want you guys to do is set up your project for your Jquery-Mobile assignment 2. You can use the stuff that I've already given you on GitHub as a start if you want. And then from there, we'll go through it together. And that's it for me for this movie. We'll do another one tomorrow.